What was the Mormon Migration? The Mormon Migration was the mass migration of all members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to Utah. This was caused by persecution from members of other religions and other Americans. The LDS Church was founded by Joseph Smith in 1830. After gaining many followers, the members of the church began to gather in cities to join together with others of their faith. That was the start of their trouble. The non-Mormons in those towns were worried that the Mormons would overtake their government and take over their land, so as soon as they were gathered, they would be violently driven from those towns. This continued until they were all gathered in Missouri, where they thought they were safe. They were welcomed in Missouri from 1831 to 1833, and they lived in relative peace. But then, relations started to turn sour. In the summer of 1833, Mormon settlers in Jackson County came under attack. Their homes were shot up, haystacks set ablaze, and in July, a Mormon printing press was smashed. This was just the beginning of more attacks like this. These attacks kept on happening all around Missouri. The last straw came when, in late October of the year 1837, Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs issued Order 44, which made it legal to kill a Mormon. When this new law finally came into effect, Mormons fled Missouri and traveled to Illinois. When they all finally made it to Illinois in 1839, Joseph Smith had founded a new city called Nauvoo. They lived there in relative peace for about 5 years. As more and more church members gathered in Nauvoo, their neighbors became more and more uneasy about their power and influence in the community. Once again, church members' properties and lives were threatened by non-Mormons. On June 27, 1844, Joseph Smith and his brother Hiram were murdered at the Carthage jail. Now the Mormons were in serious trouble again, and they decided to flee west to find a place where they could live and not be persecuted for their religion. Because they were so hated by the other people in their communities, the Mormons were often not able to find buyers for their homes and properties before they left. Without the money from selling their properties, many of the migrants began the journey without the needed supplies and equipment to be safe. The first group of pioneers made it to winter quarters, present-day Omaha, Nebraska, in the summer of 1846. When winter came, the small village was plagued with scurvy and many died. In April 1847, an advance party of 25 wagons left winter quarters to begin the second 1,000-mile journey to Utah. After 111 days of travel, this small group reached the Great Salt Lake Valley, and the new prophet of the church, Brigham Young, declared that this was the place. As a group, they had triumphed over their many tragedies. From 1847 until 1868, when the Transcontinental Railroad reached the Utah Territory, close to 70,000 pioneers would use the trail to reach the Great Salt Lake Valley. These American settlers, along with many others in California and Oregon, would help solidify the United States' claim over England's to govern the vast territory now known as the American West.
There was people from all over the world migrating to Nauvoo because the persecution they had, because they were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they thought they could be safe by moving together. That it was only a couple of years, 2 years after John Sr. got there, that they were driven out of Illinois, and they went to Utah to have another place, hopefully, to live without being persecuted and being able to worship as they would like to. And that came from all over the world. I mean, it was not just from England. We have people that migrated to Utah from virtually all over the world, and especially even today, there's still people wanting to move to that location, which is the center portion of the church. I think so that's significant to me to realize how broad it was and how intense it was to have a single migration. John Benyon Sr., I will call him, he would be your fourth great-grandfather. He had a son named John Benyon, who we'll usually call Junior, and he had a daughter named Zina Benyon, who is my grandmother.
John Benyon Sr. was born November 9, 1786, in Mancott, North Wales. As a young boy, he worked on farms and with other small businesses around Mancott to make ends meet for him and his brothers and sisters. In 1811, he married Elizabeth Roberts in the St. Mary's on the Hill church. After several hard years of work, they had enough money to begin renting a small farm where they raised their children and made a comfortable living for about 20 years. In 1830, Elizabeth died from complications after a stroke. In 1842, missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints taught John and his family. He and both his sons, Samuel and John Jr., believed and were baptized. By 1884, John Sr. decided to join them in the new city of Nauvoo, Illinois. Samuel and his family had also made the journey together with the saints in Nauvoo. After just 2 years living there, the Benyans, along with all the other Mormons, were forced to leave their beautiful city and their new homes and to flee to the west. John Sr. died of malaria in Garden Grove, Iowa on September 24th, 1846. In the spring of 1847, John Jr. and Samuel continued their journey west, and in October of 1847 they arrived in the Great Salt Lake Valley and began their lives in a new place once again, but this time they were saved from persecution once and for all. The Benyans family experience was representative of all those who were part of the Mormon migration. Everyone who journeyed to Utah experienced tragedy when they sacrificed money, property, and even lost family members and friends. But in the end, they were able to find a place to live where they would be free to practice their religion without the persecution, making the whole endeavor a triumph.